All right, joining me now from Tel Aviv is Ron Ben-Yishai, who is a veteran affairs military correspondent in Israel. He is also someone who writes for Yediot Ahronot newspaper and also for Ynet. Hi, Ron.
Hi.
All right, let's talk
And
about Gaza in a moment. But first, why would Israel risk international condemnation? Because that's how it plays outside of Israel for entering the Temple Mount and al-Aqsa Mosque and firing tear gas and rubber bullet and injuring hundreds of people. What was the point?
I don't think that there was a point. I'm sorry to say, uh, but they started the whole thing. The Palestinians started the whole thing, and an accumulation of circumstances that neither was intended to create an havoc, but altogether coming together with a political crisis in Israel and political crisis in the Palestinian camp when Abu Mazen, the president of the Palestinian Authority, canceled the elections there, which his opponents, the Hamas, was supposed to win. That's why he canceled it, and the Hamas became very angry because they realized that they lost an opportunity to become the governing element of the Palestinian nation, and there was a unjustified vacating of houses by Palestinians in Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in Jerusalem, and there was a little violation of the status quo. Nothing serious, but
Well, apparently pretty serious. But Netanyahu will once again shoulder a lot of blame for continuing on with settlement activity. And this is an expansion in East Jerusalem, which is largely a Palestinian area. Surely he is playing, you talk about Hamas playing to the street on the Palestinian side, surely he is playing to the religious parties by allowing people to go into Sheikh Jarrah and take over some of the Palestinian housing.
these are not Palestinian houses, they are on Jewish property. It is a complicated judicial or juristic problem, because Sheikh Jarrah was previously named Shchunat Shimon HaTzadik, and it was owned by Jews in Jerusalem before the 48 war. And when the Jordanians occupied East Jerusalem, they took this land, built houses on it, and rented it to Palestinians, provided they will give up their refugee status. So they are, as a matter of fact, settled or housed or are renting houses on a land that is not theirs. But there is another side of it, because Israel doesn't allow Arabs who lost their property in West Jerusalem to get their property back. But the court in Jerusalem allowed Jews to own again, to re-own the land that was owned by them before the 48.
Okay, would
So
you, that's a really important explanation, but would
no,
you
it is not.
agree that that was the spark? Certainly.
No, that was not the spark. The spark was, if you are talking about the spark, was when two Arabs slept on the cheek and photographed it and put it on Instagram. Jews in the Jerusalem tram, in Jerusalem subway, and they did it and they photographed it and they spread it in the Instagram as a show of how they can treat religious Jews. They simply, you see on the video that two Arab youngsters, two Palestinian youngsters, are approaching two yeshiva bochers sitting in the train.
These are religious, ultra-Orthodox Jews.
Yes, yes, you see the payas and the hat and the everything, and they slap them on the cheek, and then laugh, photograph it, and next station they simply get out with no punishment. And they boast in the video, this is how you should treat Jews. So with all my respect to the international public opinion, the international public opinion is misled, maybe intentionally, by journalists or media people who are not very thorough in fact finding.
Well, Ron, surely you're not.
No,
Surely,
I
sorry,
I
let
don't
me,
say,
but let me ask you, surely you are
yes,
not drawing
yes.
a parallel between slapping somebody in the face in a subway and the storming of one of the most religious holy sites to Muslims by Israeli soldiers firing tear gas and rubber bullets.
Well, first of all, Dana, it's been a long time since you have been to the Middle East. And in the Middle East, what is serious and what is not serious is not determined by the measurement in which you use force. Secondly,
Well, I think it's been 5 years, by the way, but if you want to say that's a long time, that's
secondly, what you maybe also forgot is that al-Aqsa Mosque is situated over the Wailing Wall. And when Jews prayed in the Wailing Wall, they used al-Aqsa Mosque as a shelter to throw stones and Molotov cocktails on the Jews who were praying in the Wailing Wall.
I think that's an important piece of geography that a lot of people don't understand, because the attacks on religious, let me finish, the attacks on religious Jews in front of the Western Wall are many times launched from the Temple Mount, and that's with stone throwing and whatever else they throw. That is when Israeli police will then enter the Temple Mount complex to stop the rioting.
They tried to block the doors of the Temple Mount so they cannot throw stones. But the people inside put barricades well prepared beforehand to prevent the police from reaching them, while leaving a space to let the stones and the Molotov cocktails go down to the Western Wall. So, and then they even ignited one of the trees near the mosque. They simply put gasoline on it and ignited it in order to produce a picture to be seen in London as a fire burning in the mosque, in order to ignite the whole Muslim world to do it. Listen, Dana, I don't think that Israel is a country of righteous men, and I think that our extreme right, and there is extreme Israeli right, and the extremists are as violent and as terroristic as their terrorists. But in this case, it was cynically used by an Islamic radical movement, the Hamas, with Muslim brothers, to ignite a fire that serves them politically.
And Israel just walks into it every time. I mean, they're very good at understanding and accusing the
Exactly.
Palestinians of
This
setting a
remark,
trap, and they step in it every time.
this is absolutely right what you said. That Israel, without thinking, without preparing, the Ramadan occurs every year, and you know that it is a sense. This remark is absolutely right. Israel walked into this trap open-eyed, open-eyed, obsessed with the political crisis that we have in Israel. You know that we are facing fifth election session in 2 years. Even France before World War II was not as bad as we are, or Italy after the war. And Netanyahu simply let it go.
So the
Let it
religious
go.
Zionist party,
And the unexperienced police commander and the commander of the Jerusalem region, who also is inexperienced, that gives you a
sets the stage for
exploding
disaster.
check.
Sets the
Yeah,
stage
yeah,
for disaster.
exactly.
Religious Zionist Party MK member of the Knesset, Avi Moaz, you can correct my pronunciation, is saying now today, it's time for the government to end its policies of restraint and start eradicating terror with zero tolerance. Is this restraint? When you look at what
Yes, it
Israel
is
did,
restraint. He's right. He's right. I'm not a supporter of the religious party that Avi Maoz is representing, to say the least. But yes, the police exercise a lot of restraint, and that is why I say that nobody was not killed. Because if the police
is it?
didn't use restraint, as in when Arik Sharon mounted the Temple Mount, and as in '96, the police would have used, in this case, in cases like this, firearms, and the police did not.
What
The
about it?
police,
What about Gaza? Is that restraint, carrying over 100
yeah,
airstrikes overnight into the Gaza Strip as
I, I
as
think,
Palestinian Hamas were firing more than
I
200
think,
rockets?
I think that this is only the beginning, and it should get worse, because Hamas in, interpreted Israeli lenience, and because the Israeli army was leading a line, a policy that says if Gaza will, if the Gazans will live better, will have better economy, we shall help them with their COVID efforts, and we shall do this. There will be a sort of a ceasefire, and they were wrong, because the Hamas interpreted this as a weakness. I'm sorry to say, it is unlike everything the international media wants to believe. But
Well,
the
Ron,
Hamas,
I want to defend the international media because I can tell you what, this, a lot of this is driven by social media. And what you have on, yesterday in the last 24 hours is just social media pumping out women crying and screaming in a mosque, and young men cowering from
okay,
gunfire, from
okay,
rubber bullet fire and flash grenades. And you know how that's going to play on social media. You can't blame international media for all of that.
yes, I can, and I'll tell you why. Because the same social media helped a lunatic like Donald Trump become the president of the United States and a world leader.
All right, now we're really taking a right-hand turn here. I'm not going to.
No, 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 no. It is the same thing that we are living in a post-truth era,
I agree
which
with you.
is what the media, the international, so to say,
It's certainly disinformation.